This weekend, the Vatican announced a historic agreement between the Catholic Church and China on the appointment of bishops. The diplomatic breakthrough could open the door for a papal visit to China. Seth Doan has more from Rome.
The Vatican sees China's 1.4 billion people as a land rich for evangelization. The country's estimated 12 million Catholics have historically been split. One branch in churches recognized and controlled by the officially atheist Chinese government, the others in underground or secret churches loyal to the Pope. Previously, each side had appointed their own bishops. For the first time now, they've announced they'd appoint those church leaders together. How that would work and how much power the Pope would have is not yet clear. It has been reported the Pope may have veto power. Ahead of this weekend's announcement, Father Bernardo Cervellera expressed concerns about allowing China to control the candidates for bishops, potentially putting politics above faith.
So they could choose candidates who are weak, candidates who are easily manipulated. Sometimes can be also candidates who are corrupted.
The Holy See agreed to one of the main points pushed by Beijing, recognizing 8 bishops, one of them deceased, who'd been appointed by the Communist Party but had been until now excommunicated from the church. The Vatican's Secretary of State said the church is pushing for unity.
Today, for the first time, all the bishops in China are in communion with the Bishop of Rome.
But the status of other bishops who'd been in underground churches and critical of China's government is not clear.
The Vatican and China have not had official diplomatic relations since 1951. This step puts into motion work started by Pope Francis's predecessors, but the director of the Holy See press office said this is not the end of the process, but the beginning. Seth Doan, CBS News.
Wednesday morning
Rome.
during the general audience, Pope Francis announced that just days after signing the historic agreement in Beijing with China, he's written an accompanying message as well.
Con ciò auspico che in Cina si possa aprire una nuova fase che aiuti a sanare le ferite del passato e a ristabilire e a mantenere la piena comunione di tutti i cattolici cinesi e ad assumere con rinnovato impegno l'annuncio del Vangelo.
The signing of a provisional agreement between the Holy See and the People's Republic of China concerning the appointment of bishop is of a great importance, especially for the life of the Church in China, for the dialogue between the Holy See and the authorities of that country, and also for the promotion of an horizon of peace in these present times in which we experience so many tensions at the international level.
Dictator Kim Jong-un has invited Pope Francis to North Korea in an effort to highlight his peace efforts in the Korean Peninsula. The invitation to the Pope is the first by a North Korean leader since 2000. North Korea and the Vatican have no formal diplomatic relations, and the Vatican had no immediate comment to the invitation. Kim told South Korean President Moon Jae-in of his wish to meet the Pope during their summit last month. President Moon is expected to deliver the invitation to Pope Francis when the two meet in Europe.
We're getting reaction to another rather interesting move by the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. He's inviting Pope Francis to come visit North Korea, which officially is an atheist country. Let's bring in CNN's Brian Todd. Brian, tell us more about this invitation.
Wolf, Kim's invitation was passed to Pope Francis at the Vatican today by South Korean President Moon Jae-in. This is seen tonight as a cynical and pretty brassy move from a dictator who's got thousands of Christians in labor camps. In the exalted halls of the Vatican today, an audacious gesture made by a brutal dictator. South Korean President Moon Jae-in telling Pope Francis he had been asked to convey an invitation from Kim Jong-un for the pontiff to visit Pyongyang. The Pope said he'll consider going.
What Kim Jong-un probably intends to get out of this is more good PR for the regime.
Analysts say today's invitation is little more than an extension of Kim's charm offensive, another effort to be seen among the world's great statesmen, following his multiple visits with the South Korean president, with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and with President Trump.
Excellent relationship. Thank you.
In reality, experts say the North Koreans have always seen religion as a threat. Evangelist Billy Graham did visit North Korea twice in the 1990s, but Kim's grandfather, the founder of North Korea, held himself out as godlike and prevented all other forms of religion.
Religion was exterminated with extreme prejudice over a period of only a few years under Kim Il-sung.
The U.S. government, in a recent report, said Kim's regime's approach to religion is among the most hostile and repressive in the world, quote, known to arrest, torture, imprison, and even execute religious believers. Christians are major targets.
There are defector reports of North Koreans trying to sneak Bibles across the border from China, being caught, lined up, huge fish hooks put through their ears, chained together, and marched off to Yodok camps, to concentration camps, precisely because they were Christian.
And Americans have been swept up. Kenneth Bay was in a labor camp for nearly 2 years, from 2012 to 2014, accused of planning a religious coup.
Fundamentally, it came down to the fact that he was a Christian missionary, and he was basically accused of proselytizing.
Bay said he carried rocks and shoveled coal every day, got very sick, nearly died, and was given no hope.
There's one prosecutor who assigned to my case for the last year of my imprisonment. He came to me almost every week and said, "No one remember you. You have been forgotten by people, your governments."
So what message would the Pope be sending if he goes to Pyongyang?
I do see a role for the Pope and for the Vatican in encouraging diplomacy, encouraging peace. I just don't think going to North Korea would be worth that in terms of the message it would send about how the Vatican itself understands the situation on the ground, which is tragic.
The Pope to North Korea, is that a likely scenario?
Well, I certainly think that Pope will consider this very carefully before he makes any decision to do this. But clearly, Kim Jong-un has a lot to ask for forgiveness. The assassination of his stepbrother, the blowing away of his brother-in-law, I believe it was, with an anti-aircraft gun, the basically imprisonment of millions of people in North Korea, starving his own people for his own betterment and enrichment. So there's a lot of things that this guy, Kim Jong-un, has done that he's responsible for that perhaps a conversation with the Pope would be.
Every year, the anti-persecution group Open Doors puts out the World Watch List, subtitling it this year, the 50 countries where it's most dangerous to follow Jesus. Open Doors president blasted #1 on the list North Korea and its dictator Kim Jong-un.
Imagine in your mind a leader who thinks he is God, but acts like an animal, devouring his own people.
A Christian in North Korea and you're discovered to be a Christian, if you're found to possess a Bible in your home, if you're found to be meeting with other Christians to pray, you certainly will end up in a prison camp for probably the rest of your life. In some cases, you might be executed.
All right, well, Russia is causing problems not only in the Middle East, as we just heard, it's also creating trouble for Christians at home. Evangelicals believe a fresh wave of persecution will accompany a new law that forbids sharing their faith in public. Russian authorities call it an anti-terrorism measure, but as Heather Sells reports, it directly targets Protestants.
Christians in Russia can no longer freely share their faith in public, at home, or on social media. They must also obtain official approval before inviting people to church. Breaking any of these new rules can lead to fines and even prison.
Стоять! Стоять, не перелазь.
Там животные сгорели.
Телефончик уберите, пожалуйста. Я вам сказал.
These scenes could be taken from an action film. Fierce attacks, burning houses, arrests. A wave of aggression and religious intolerance toward Jehovah's Witnesses is flooding Russia.
It was terrible, of course, because we gathered to study the Bible, and suddenly 15 members of the special police burst in.
On May 25, 2017, in the city of Oryol, armed men, including FSB officers, burst into a home where local Jehovah's Witnesses were gathered. In the police footage, armed men can be seen blocking the audience from leaving. The believers were forbidden to touch their phones and tablets. The search and questioning of those in attendance continued for 14 hours. Passport information was taken down. Tablets were seized. Some of the men among the believers were taken to the FSB building. One of them, a Dane, Dennis Christensen, was before a court the very next day. In the end, Judge Svetlana Naumova ruled to impose interim measures on Dennis Christensen in the form of 2 months detention. He has become the first of Jehovah's Witnesses in modern-day Russia to have been arrested for his religious beliefs.
It means that after that, all Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia will be criminalized. Because if they will continue their normal religious activity, they will be viewed as criminals.
Придя, сели вот на эту лавочку прямо в центре, для того, чтобы им удобно было, как потом выяснилось, скрытой видеокамерой снимать то, что происходило на сцене. Мы стремимся помогать людям, стремимся донести то, что написано в Священном Писании. И то, что нас обвиняет вот во всех этих абсурдных нарушениях закона, это сильно огорчает.
They were exiled just for practicing their religion, for reading Bible, for sharing Bible truth with the neighbors. That's all. And now we can see that for same reason, in modern Russia, we are facing same situation.